Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. I'm Ken Calvert, alongside my dear friend, Father Joe Grimaldi. The Father Joe Grimaldi podcast is being supported by our great friends at Hoot McInerney Starlink and 12 Mile and Telegraph in Southfield. The family, along with the entire staff, once again want to thank you. They've been serving our community for over 50 years with another 50 to come. That's why so many of their customers come back, second time, third time. Guys like me on their fourth Starlink and SUV. Star would like to thank you for one of their best months ever. That was May, and June is on track to be their best June ever. And it's easy because they've got a great lineup of sedans and SUVs, and you have to stop by, say hi, have a cup of coffee, and take a look at that 2020 Lincoln Aviator. If you're not blown away, friends, I can't help you. Starlink and 12 Mile and Telegraph, you can shop online at starlincoln.com. Highly recommend you do that and just take a look at the YouTube video of the 2020 Aviator. It is incredible. Hoot McInerney Starlincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield, the home of the Father Joe Grimaldi Star Treatment. Just had another one of our famous, or infamous, I guess I could say, one of our little coffee talks. You just basically sprung something on me that I found fascinating. And I don't know exactly why, but I think we'll get to the bottom of it here in the body of this podcast. You were telling me that parishioners, we Catholics, should look forward to a day sooner than later when our pastor is no longer the main person in charge of my parish.
Correct.
Who is going to take the place of my pastor?
Well, I think the credentials would include being a good business manager, a good director, a good organizer, someone who is well-versed in the daily activities of life in the business world. Because when a person is asked to be in charge of a parish, yes, it's a spiritual entity. There is no question that it is a spiritual entity. By the same token, it is a material entity as well, because one of the obligations of the pastor is to make sure that the church functions well, the church is kept up to date physically, the structures of the church, the grounds, the grade school very often. So it really involves someone who has business abilities. Now, granted, when young priests who have been through the seminary, they've experienced a certain amount of business know-how in the seminary, but not really enough, okay? They're not really in a state of confidence to run a big parish, let's say. Maybe a small parish, but even there, things can easily get complicated in no time. So what happens is this. Most often, particularly in the big parishes, there is a CFO. Mm-hmm. And the CFO is in charge of all of the finances of that parish, but also very often is in charge of the physical makeup of the plant. And so he's the one in charge of making sure that the steps are in good shape, that the grounds are in good shape, that everything is being handled and up to date on a regular basis.
The grass is being cut.
All of those things, very important things for the church to function. In any case, so the CFO really does that too. However, what some dioceses in the United States envision, and very soon, by the way, what they envision is someone who is in charge of every aspect. The scheduling of weddings, the scheduling of funerals, who's going to give the retreat in 2 weeks, who's going to say the Mass at 10, who's going to say the Mass at 12, if it is at 10 and 12. They're going to make those decisions, as well as being in charge of the financial and business aspects of the parish. So that person, he or she, will be the main person. Now, we're not used to that as Catholics.
No, wait, I've been very, very patient, okay?
Go ahead.
I've got to stop you right here.
Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, you're dancing on a dozen eggs here when it comes to assigning a funeral or assigning a wedding or assigning a mass schedule. I suspect down the road that's something you could look at. I don't think you can touch a funeral or a wedding. People come forward and specifically ask if they can for a priest to handle a funeral. They usually have somebody in mind. Exactly the same case with a wedding, unless I'm mistaken.
Oh, no, you're right. But
okay.
They can still do that with the head of the parish.
Yeah, but you don't... Boy, you're going to get some serious pushback. You know, I mean, that's one of those, you hear that expression, stay in your lane? Mr. New CFO, CEO, COO, whatever I call you, sir. That's kind of like out... Leave that one to us, the priests, okay? We have had a long, storied relationship. I've taken these people through highs and lows, and I've seen the beginning and I've seen the end. Allow me to finish my job.
A lot of priests are tired. They're old. They just look forward to the time when they don't have to worry about scheduling, where they don't have to worry about the reports that have to be made to the diocese or to the archdiocese. They just want to be able to do the sacraments. We call those sacramental priests.
Okay.
And so that if somebody wants Father Jones, well, there's no problem in that person requesting Father Jones for the wedding. And basically, instead of going to the pastor, now they go to this person who is the head of the parish, and they can do the same thing. So actually, their needs are being met.
Mm-hmm. I'm sensing then you would find some comfort, relief in this, given this particular time, your age, and the fact that you're a little tired. You don't have quite the energy that you had when you were 30 years old, especially 25 years old. So you would prefer to look at the schedule like, at least 75% of all Americans do. You look at the schedule, you know, tomorrow you're going in at 11. On Monday, maybe you're going in at 9 a.m. Okay, maybe it varies a little bit, but just by a couple of hours. But it's easier to know that you're getting out of there at 3 o'clock on Friday, so you get a little longer weekend. You'd prefer to just have a schedule that you look at and you know exactly what's happening day to day.
To an extent, because I'm retired, so it doesn't matter to
No,
me.
you're not, though. I mean, you can't even use that as an excuse
But anyway,
anymore.
but that's what I do. I look
Okay.
at the schedule, and
Yeah.
that's what I do.
So you do actually have a schedule right now?
Jeff, I have a
Okay.
schedule till the 1st of January.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're very well organized where I
Right.
go. But in any case,
You have a business manager now, do you not? At St. Hugo?
CFO, head of the finances, yes.
Okay. But you don't have somebody running the entire operation.
No, the pastor does
Simply the
that.
financial wing is covered by a CFO.
Financial wing is covered, but the financial wing includes anything material. So
right,
that-
but it's in concert with the pastor.
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Usually the pastor has
Okay.
the last word.
That's what I would think, yes.
Yeah,
But I just want to make sure for the sake of
But
the
you know,
podcast.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm retired, so it doesn't really affect me as much. But I think one of the proposals that is being made throughout the whole United States is that it will really apply to the future. And whether or not the diocese in general will accept this type of administration of a parish, it remains to be seen. Because let's say I'm a parishioner, I'm used to a certain way of doing things, and all of a sudden there's something new is thrown out at me. I'm not sure I'm going to like it right away. So
Yeah. That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
counterpoint, remember.
Yeah.
And it's not difficult for me to play the part of counterpoint.
Sure.
I just find it, well, I mean, leave it to me to make everything the extreme, but I'm certainly not going to walk out into the lobby at the end of Mass and see the CEO standing out there as well, greeting the parishioners as they come out. In other words, like, how did we do today? Hi, nice to see you, Mrs. Walker. Nice to see you. Oh, hello, Father. I mean, Mr. Dawson. It's nice to see you. That's going to take a little while to get used to.
I think it will. It's a whole different way of running the parish.
Have you non-scientifically canvassed some friends and some colleagues about this and see what their thoughts are?
This is so new,
Oh.
Ken. It is so new. The whole idea is so new. But, however, it's being implemented in a number of dioceses already.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah. Maybe not here, but it is certainly being implemented. Whether or not, pastors, bishops, and so on could let go so easily of their, in quotes, power, I don't know.
That's what I'm wondering.
But they can easily let go of all of the stuff that's involved in administration. For the pastor, having to make reports on a regular basis to the diocese or the archdiocese, always keeping in communication with them, organizing the mundane things. What are we going to do? The collection is low, and yet we need to do something. Should we have a drive? Should we do this? Well, they'd be free of that. But they would still have the obligation, because he's the only one that could say the Mass. The priest is the only one who could hear confessions.
Of course.
The priest is the only one who can anoint. And so, keeping those things in mind, the priest will still have those obligations that run over and above the time of the scheduled activities of the parish.
I see what you're doing here, and I guess that I could get used to it. It's not something that I don't understand. I understand, but I just assume that template would always be in place. It would always be a pastor, an assistant, maybe two, with some help on the weekends. A lot of parishes operate that way now, where it's just a pastor and those priests that help out, like you, on the weekends.
Yeah.
But you're thinking that that's going to be the way, and that a lot of the senior priests are not opposed.
No, I don't think the senior priests are opposed.
Okay.
They would like to be rid of all that. But what's interesting? I have been to a parish where there is no priest assigned.
Period?
Just you have the person who runs the parish.
Okay.
In this particular case that I'm thinking of, it was a woman. She was head of the parish. Now, what her obligation was to make sure that all the masses would be covered. So she would have to make the phone calls to get priests to come to say the various masses. Now, this happened to be in a diocese and it was not in Hawaii, but
California?
It's up in Washington.
Oh, yeah.
But basically a diocese where there weren't enough priests, if you want, and so they did allow this type of a system to operate. The reason I mention that, I think that's related a little bit to this new concept of having a business manager run the parish instead of a pastor.
Mm-hmm. You don't think in any way, shape, or form it has to do with the declining ranks of priests?
Definitely, I do think.
Oh, you do think that?
Yeah.
That we're not stocking the pond the way we did 50 years ago?
At least, there's a lot of studies that have to still be made on demographics. Where are the people? Are the churches in the right places for the people? When they built these churches all over the cities, that's where the Catholics were. And, well, through the years, we know that the demographics have changed. People have moved away from particular areas, and so many of the parishes, as we have seen, had to be closed down because there wasn't the population. So I think it requires a matter of studying the demographics. I think it also requires the matter of, yes, there might be enough priests numerically, but what about their ages? The age of the priest is now rising, there's no question. And so as the person gets older and he's faced with all sorts of challenges, physical and otherwise, you could see where there aren't enough of the young fellows who will take over so quickly.
Yeah.
And so I think all of these things have to be part of what this thinking is about.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I have two questions for you. I want to go back to something that I was thinking about. Have you ever known of a situation where a pastor just flat out didn't have the right stuff to be a pastor. He could not handle all of the various areas that needed to be handled on a regular basis. That just wasn't in his toolbox.
Yes.
Okay, and so that's unfortunate, number one. It's very uncomfortable for the archbishop or the cardinal, whatever the case may be, to have to say, I need to put somebody else in here. Has that happened on occasion?
Of course it has.
It has.
Maybe in a more diplomatic way. They
well-
would probably wait out the time.
Oh, they
the
would.
The other thing that
Okay.
happens, which I think is interesting,
Yeah.
when that does happen,
Okay.
it's amazing how quickly the parishioners themselves come to the rescue. You know, they seem to take over. They seem to, in their own way, are helping very much.
Uh-huh.
But by the same token, they're doing the job that very often pastors are doing. And so it's amazing how they come to the rescue because they love Father.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
It's like, generally speaking.
Says a heck of a mass.
Yes.
Hey,
and they
boy, this
love,
guy,
they love him.
this
Yeah.
guy does a homily. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I'd put it against anybody out there. I'm telling you, he's quick. He gets to the point. He's as colorful as a spring day.
That's right.
This guy's something else. Now I'll tell you what, though, this guy couldn't count to 50 if he had to.
That happens.
Yeah. Well, that's like I said. Some guys just guys like me, for example. You know
don't
what I
be
mean?
so humble.
Oh
Yes.
well, but it's true. It's true. Because I got to tell you, if there's one area that I am brutal, that is math. But number two, interesting. You kind of mitigated that question I was going to ask you because you said that normally the parishioners realize that, hey, let my crew handle this step,
That's
okay,
right.
Father?
That's right.
I noticed it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
That's what I do for a living. Let my guys come in and fix
They
it.
do come
Yeah,
forward.
yeah. Well, okay. But do you think then that there will be times when the priests will say, "That's not my area. You're going to have to take it to Mr. Dawson." I mean, there's going to be that situation, right? Mr. Dawson being my hypothetical guy in charge. Somebody's going to have to say, no, you can't take that to Father Grimaldi. You have to take that to Mr. Dawson.
Well, Mr. Dawson is the only one there.
So they have no choice but
No, because Mr. Dawson is in charge of making sure the masses are covered.
Yeah, Mr. Dawson is the name that I've given this person.
Yeah,
So,
let's just say.
yeah, let's just
and
say.
let's keep it.
Mr.
But
Dawson, yes.
basically, he's the one who's going to make the phone calls. Hey, we need somebody for the 10 o'clock Mass. Will you be here? Or so-and-so, will you be here for the noon Mass? So on. So he's the one, it could be a she as well. The thing is this, that person is the one that makes sure that everything is covered in the best way. So if there is a problem with finances, yes, they're going to have to go to Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson.
Or Mrs. Dawson.
Or Mrs. whatever.
Yeah.
We need to get together because there has to be a way that we could raise the income within the parish.
Okay. All right. And that will help do other things that need our attention as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that includes they may have an idea as a better way to put people in the pews that they could
Exactly.
certainly discuss with the priests that come out and say Mass within the body of that church.
Yeah, I think the lay people are savvy about that kind of stuff.
I couldn't-
and they can help tremendously.
And I think they're aware of what's going on.
Yes.
It's rather obvious. Well, final question, and it's a silly one, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
I would think that the parishioners would very much like to have a bit of a say in the vetting process of Mr. or Mrs. Dawson when it comes to running that church.
There's no question about that because I see it, for example, in the Protestant churches. Even when they pick a minister as their pastor, there usually is a committee that interviews the possibilities. Now, when you get to the Catholic situation and you get to this person who's going to run the whole parish, I think they're going to have a serious committee with lawyers and people that are headhunters, people that know what's going on in the business world, to interview many people to choose the right person.
In a past podcast, you told me that one of the reasons for not having lay people or letting a married man become a priest is because of the fact that their responsibility is to their family. You realize that with a CFO, COO, CEO, Mr. Dawson more than likely, or Mrs. Dawson more than likely, is going to have a family. So in a way, there's a contradiction for me. To me, how do we know that Mr. or Mrs. Dawson isn't going to say, hey, I also have a family that I got to take care of. I can't do that right now.
The head of General Motors has a family.
Oh, boy. You had to just literally have your answer ready because I took too long to ask. Okay.
No, but I'm just
I know
thinking,
I know that Mary Barra has a family.
So the thing is this.
I personally have never seen her spending a lot of family time.
Well, they should.
Yeah. I'm sure that there are photos on her desk.
Right. But in answer...
I'm being sarcastic,
No, I know
so
you
please no letters, no please no emails.
But in answering your question as much as I can, anyway, I'm no expert, but let me say this, that to take care of those spiritual needs, the priest is still the one they're going to call, listen, my husband is dying. Would you be able to come to anoint him? They'll call that priest.
Okay.
Or they need to have somebody at the hospital, or they need to have somebody have Mass attend. So the priest is still going to be the one doing those things. It's the CFO, the CEO, I don't know what to call him.
COO,
COO,
yeah.
Everything.
Chief cook and bottle washer.
Yes,
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay.
Doesn't have to worry about that, okay, because the people will have the priest to refer to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it's going to take a little getting used to. But now that you've mentioned it, I bet we see it sooner than later.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but I think it is happening in some places.
Yeah, then if it's happening in some places, it's going to roll out rather quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not Columbus when it comes to McDonald's, and by that, apparently when McDonald's rolls out a new product, one of their test markets is Columbus, Ohio. Don't ask me why, but if they like it in Columbus,
they'll like it everywhere.
They'll like it everywhere, okay? So here's what you need to do. You need to find out if they're doing this right now in Columbus. Because if they are, and it's working, get out of the way because it's coming to the Motor City.
We'll give it our best shot.
All right, great job. Great job. Well, that's... all right.
Always good talking with you.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. I mean, doggone it. I mean, Father Grimaldi.
I'm just the priest.
Will you please say hi to Mrs. Dawson? I'm sorry, Father. The Dawsons are coming in after you, okay? Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Father Joe podcast.
I look forward to seeing you. All right.
Play the music, boys.
This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.